Ralf Rangnick has left Manchester United as manager. Totally expected. But Ralf Rangnick has not stayed on as a consultant for a couple of years. For me, this is extremely disappointing. One, partially because I was so excited about him coming in the first place, and it wasn't necessarily for what we would see immediately on the pitch. It was very much for what you was going to see from this consultancy from him and what he would have learned being up close and personal with the players throughout the 6 months that he's just had with them. I thought his input going forward would be extremely valuable. Yesterday, United announced that he won't be staying in that consultancy role, and it's a mutual decision between himself and the club. He felt like the job that he's just taken with Austria was going to take up some time, and the club seemingly agreed with him. But I have to think that there's been probably some thoughts from the club here that Ralf Rangnick's way of speaking in the press was not the sort of thing that they wanted to continue with going forward. Now, the opportunities to speak would be less, given the consultancy role he would be taking, but there's every chance, further distanced away from the club, when he's on international duty, someone says, hey, United was a load of shit this weekend, weren't they? And Ralf goes, fucking wasn't they? And I think that would be a risk that, considering how uninjured he was and how uncontrollable he was when he was at the club, it was clearly something the club didn't want to pursue and something that the club didn't really want to risk going forward. And the problem with this 6 month then is that Ralf Rangnick's been brought in to be someone that helps the club build, someone with experience as a director of football, as a sporting director. He wasn't a coach. He hasn't coached for like a decade or so at the top level. He was an all right coach. He was never like a master tactician. He was a visionary. And he was someone that was very good in the back end of a staff and knew how to set clubs up to be successful and appointing the right people to do the right job. Something that's a very valuable tool. Now, for whatever reason, on top of those I've just mentioned, United didn't want to pursue with that. And I feel like there's probably some sort of irritation at the way he spoke in the press being a massive part of that. Now, his tenure was riddled with all sorts of things that probably not really his fault. Some definitely are, some aren't. There was drama, discontent, uncertainty. Team morale was the lowest I've ever seen it. Tactics were sporadic, and when you listen to Ralf in press conferences, and I have no reason to disbelieve what he was coming out and saying, he was giving the players instructions and the players weren't doing them. And that's possible and probable, actually. Looking at the way the team performed, you have to go, yeah, I can see that that was how it went down. So Ducker sort of had some insight this week, and he said United first sounded Ralf out over a potential strategy and recruitment role in 2019, which is really interesting. But people at the club who feel it's indicative of the problems, that they potentially didn't appoint the right man. But we did finally appoint the right man at the wrong time and in the wrong role. Which is so fucking typical of United, isn't it? It's like signing a goalkeeper, playing him right wing and going, he's fucking shit, he is. It's exactly what we've just done with Ralf. You got a guy that his whole, and I guess the way the players reacted to him maybe was an indication of how they would have reacted going forward, but it almost is irrelevant. You as a player means you as a manager, there's no connection. You as a great player, you might be the shittest manager the world's ever seen, and vice versa. Ralf as a technical director versus how he was day-to-day interacting with the players might have been worlds apart, but we've got no way of knowing that. The staff Rangnick did recruit didn't go down well, and that's something that he's typically had a decent track record of, but Chris Armas didn't win over anybody. Sasha Lenz, similar sort of fate. And United supposedly felt that Rangnick's appointment didn't give him breathing room to conduct a real search for the new permanent manager, and I don't get this in all honesty, because he's a consultant. He's not got the keys to the kingdom. A consultant's someone that you go, listen, here's what we're thinking of doing, what's your thoughts? He gives you his thoughts and you go, thank you. And then you go make a decision. He wasn't the CEO. It's like, if I ask a friend for advice, I don't need my friend to go and carry out what they've asked for me to do themselves. I take on board what I've asked. I take on board their opinion, and then I go and do what I think is the right thing with my own experiences and their advice on top. That's how this is meant to be done. That's what Mr. Arnold, what Murta, this is what all these guys are supposed to be doing. That's the job of a consultant. Ralf wasn't CEO. He wasn't director of football, or wasn't going to be these things. He was going to be a consultant. Now, a consultant, you might sit down, you might go, right, okay, talk to me. What do you think in terms of strategy? Here's what we've come up with. Can you come up with any efficiencies or solutions for the things that we're stuck with there? And he has a look at it and he gives you the advice based on his experience for the last few years. If Rangnick's determined to focus his efforts fully on being the Austria manager, honestly, they don't feel right, that to me. I feel like this is a cop-out from him, and it's a way out from the club as well. And for whatever reason, maybe his personality didn't jive with everyone. And it could easily be down to the fact that he was so keen to just let out all of the issues behind the scenes. That's the only thing I can think. Like, honestly, the performance of his team was shocking. He got 1.5 points per game, 42% win rate, the lowest of any United manager in the Premier League. You wouldn't keep him on that, but that's not what he was hired to do. I worry that a plan seemingly put in place 6 months ago has now completely diminished. What plan is in play now? This could be the first big mistake we see of the Richard Arnold era. On the surface, everything looks like it's kind of going in the correct direction at the moment. But there's got to be more people appointed in senior roles, football people. You know, there's some really good noises coming out about John Murta at the moment. I had my doubts about him at first. But this could be a clanger. This doesn't seem to me like a good decision. You know, if you have someone down for a consultancy appointment and you renege on that after the 6 months of their coaching has finished, who's doing that job you had lined up for them? So that's my thoughts on that. Let me know in the comments. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you think that United are making a mistake here? Or do you think that there's more to this than meets the eye? Let me know. I'll see you in a bit. Hey, thank you for watching the video. If you are new around these parts, then don't forget to subscribe. My channel is proudly supported by my community on Patreon. If you'd like to get a little bit of extra content, a Discord group, meetups, five-a-side games, weekly podcasts, behind the scenes, and even an occasional bit of transfer news as and when I get it, then for the price of a pint, you can show your appreciation for the content that we make and get some goodies for doing so as well. Check the link in the description or click the button right here. You'll also find all of my socials here too if you want to follow me on any of those platforms. Nice one.